Hey, it's meteorologist Corey Reppenhagen with the 9 News Weather Impact Team. Thanks for tuning into this forecast. We do have a little bit of a severe weather potential across much of Colorado today, and that will include the Front Range and the Northeast Plains. We could have some potentially some strong winds, 60 mile per hour plus with these storms today. We could have some hail larger than 1 inch, which is considered severe hail. And we could also see some non-severe weather impacts like lightning and street flooding and flash flooding potential in the mountains as well. So those are your headlines. We'll take a look here. That severe weather potential is mainly on the northeast plains, but that it does include the Front Range and the Denver metro area. We'll show you that potential here coming up, but the flood potential is also there. We have what is considered a marginal excessive rainfall threat for pretty much all of Colorado today. So that just means we have a lot of moisture rolling into the state. Actually, on the Front Range, near record levels of moisture in the atmosphere at this time, which is unusual for this part of August. So that is the main ingredient. When we have all that moisture in the air, sometimes that's all it takes here on the Front Range, but we do have some limiting factors that go along with that, and that will kind of hinge the forecast a little bit. And then we have more heat on the way. We'll be in the upper to middle 90s for the next couple of days after this. So the heat is not gone, although today kind of feels decent. It will be above average. The average temperature in Denver, 87 degrees. It'll be close to 90 today, so just a few degrees hotter than it normally is. We take a look at the live radar right now at 11 o'clock, and there's not too much activity out there, but we can see those storms starting to build out there. There's just no rain showing up on the radar just yet, and that will come over the next hour, maybe an hour and a half. We'll start to see those storms starting to drop the rain, particularly in the mountains first and then down towards the metro area. You look at the sky right there over Denver right now, you can see the moisture in the air, you can feel the moisture in the air. The clouds are starting to build in the mountains. We still have quite a bit of cloud cover, high clouds in the Denver metro area, so partly cloudy. Out to the east, if you turn this camera around, you'd see a little bit more of a clear sky. So here's the severe thunderstorm risk for today. And we have a level 1 and a level 2, which is called marginal and slight, but those terms don't really do a good job of displaying the potential for today. The marginal and slight kind of means there's going to be isolated to scattered rain and thunderstorms, as opposed to an enhanced risk where you would see more people potentially impacted by these thunderstorms. It doesn't mean that they'll be marginally severe or just slightly severe. They'll be severe. They'll just won't cover quite as much ground as an enhanced level threat, a level 3 would be. But you can see right there in the Denver metro area, all of the Front Range metro population is included in the level 1. So that means there is potential for 1 inch hail or slightly larger, and also 60 mile per hour wind gusts with these thunderstorms when they move through today. And then when you get into the yellow threat, there is just a little bit more of an elevated intensity. So you could be looking at 1 to 2 inch hail, maybe even bigger. And we could be seeing a severe thunderstorm watch issued later on today. And if they do issue one, I think they would include the Denver metro area and the Front Range, just because of the moisture that's available in the air. It's just a very high level of moisture for August 19th, comparatively to throughout the climate history. And so that is the main ingredient, but there are some limiting factors. The instability is not super high, especially right in the Front Range, and the wind shear is very low. So those are the factors that kind of maintain the storms after they get initially going. So that is the one thing that may keep the potential, especially along the I-25 corridor, just a little limited. We'll take a look at Futurecast, and the computer models with the simulated radar is kind of showing that to be the case here. Here we'll take a look at the 3 o'clock hour. We'll have some storms here. I'll back it up a little bit. We'll have the storms starting to get having some potential here as early as 1 o'clock, and that will be mainly in the mountain areas, and there will be that excessive rainfall threat in the mountains, so we'll watch for some potential flooding there. But as we get to about the 2 o'clock hour, that's when we start to see the storms right in the Denver metro area, and you can see by the characterization here on the Futurecast that those storms will likely be, at least initially, fairly weak storms here, showing in just the west side of the Denver metro. And as they move across here, not seeing too much of a spike through the Denver metro area with the first wave of storms between 2 and 4 o'clock, but you could get a brief heavy rainfall, maybe some small hail, some pea-size hail. And then look out to the east, that first round of storms potentially very strong out on the eastern plains from Lyman all the way up to Akron. So those storms are showing the potential for being much more severe. So we're talking about larger hail between 1 to 2 inches in diameter and some stronger wind gusts. But we'll keep the model going here through time, and you see kind of another wave develop back behind this. This one's kind of showing in the Palmer Divide area, Castle Rock Monument, but that is a potentially very strong storm. And then another little wave of storms here through the Denver metro area. So those ones around 6 o'clock, if that outflow from the first wave of storms does create the second wave, those would potentially be much stronger. And if we do have some 1-inch hail in Denver, that is the timing I would look to see if we would get that. And mainly it would be east of I-25. So DIA would certainly be in the area of that threat, and also the E470 loop out there on the east side all the way down to Parker would certainly be a threat here for some of that larger hail. And then that threat will subside by about 8 o'clock. So we're looking at the storm potential between 2 and 8, and the stronger storms between 6 and 7. According to a lot of this is one computer forecast model that I'm showing you, but there are several of these high resolution models that are showing the same type of solution. And right about here, about 8 o'clock, they continue on the eastern plains, and they could carry a severe threat all the way until about 10 o'clock tonight, at least in northeast Colorado. Now let me zoom out here just to show you the rest of the state, because the mountains will also carry somewhat of a storm risk. Not so much hail, but some damaging winds possible. But the biggest threat here in the mountains, you can see this, not a lot of coverage, so we're looking at isolated to scattered coverage here in the mountains, but these individual cells could have the potential for some excessive rainfall, meaning flash flooding potential, meaning some mudslides potential, and also rock slides. Also the burn scars would certainly be a threat. It wouldn't even take this amount of rain to cause trouble in a burn scar, especially the Alexander Mountain burn, which has had some high degree of burn severity to it and has not been fully tested throughout that burn scar yet. But then you see the mountain threat kind of subsides at about 8 o'clock too. So after 8 o'clock, the mountains in the Front Range are starting to look pretty good, but the eastern plains will carry that threat all the way into the late part of night, maybe even past midnight. So your temperatures today will be a little bit on the friendlier side, still above average, like we mentioned. 87 is the average for today, so all in the Denver metro area. Just a few degrees. I think we'll just briefly touch 90 degrees. If we do hit 90, I think it'll only be for maybe an hour or so. So pretty comfortable compared to what we've seen over the last several weeks here, especially what we've had over the weekend and what we have tomorrow. So today would kind of be a more enjoyable temperature range. Up in the mountains here, we're looking at some 70s. Winter Park maybe not even breaking into the 70s today, staying in the 60s. So that's something for the mountains to enjoy there, besides the excessive rainfall threat, which is partially the reason why we have those low temperatures. But we'll also have a super blue moon tonight. So that's weather permitting, of course. There will be some areas, especially in the high country, where you'll have a good look at this. So the super blue moon, that doesn't mean it's going to turn super blue, but it's two different kind of aspects to this. The super part is it's a super moon, and that'll actually be happening here in about an hour. It'll become super, which means it'll hit its perigee part of its orbit, the closest point to Earth, so it'll appear about 14% bigger and 30% brighter. So that would be happening in about an hour. But of course, the moon is on the wrong side of the planet right now, so we won't be able to see that until it actually comes up later on tonight. The blue moon part, the blue part of this is just, we call it a blue moon because when there's 4 full moons in one season, the third one is called a blue moon. And so we had a full moon in June, we had a full moon in July, and we'll have another full moon coming up here in September just before the equinox. And so the third one is called the blue moon. I don't know why it's not the fourth one, but the third one is the blue moon. So we have a super blue moon. Now it'll come up, the moon rise is expected to be at about 8:12. But we'll have those storms out to the east, so our view of this super blue moon rise will be likely obstructed by storms. So we might have to wait until later on in the night. It's a little less impressive when it's high in the sky because honestly you can't tell the difference between a super blue moon and a normal full moon when it's straight up above you. But I think the best viewing for this event will be between 5 a.m. and 7 a.m. tomorrow morning when the moon is about to set over the western foothills. So that would be the time where it would be the most impressive. 7 a.m. will be after sunrise, so it'll start to be kind of light already, so that might take a little bit of the flare out of it, but I think 6 o'clock, maybe in between 6 and 7, I think we're going to get a pretty spectacular view of this moon to the west because the lighting will be just about perfect as the sun's just starting to come up on the eastern horizon and the moon's starting to go down. And when the moon is on the horizon, that's when you really get the full feel for the how big it really is. So with that 14% bigger, you might actually be able to tell that when it's on the horizon. So here's your forecast highs for Tuesday. We're going to get right back up into the higher 90s. So we're looking at middle to upper 90s across the Front Range again on Tuesday, with a little bit of a drier condition. So we're not looking at much of a rain threat for the Front Range here in the Northeast Plains for tomorrow. That went really fast here. Let me back that up here. Now, this is Futurecast looking at the Front Range and Northeast Plains here for Tuesday. It was a little bit of cloud cover, but not a lot of rain. We'll have a few showers lightly and quickly try to develop through here, but we're not looking at much of a rain threat for Tuesday. So the heat is up, the rain is down for Tuesday, and then we'll pick things back up as you look at the 7-day forecast here. Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday will carry a little bit higher of a rainfall and thunderstorm threat, about 40% coverage across the Denver metro area. So almost half of us are looking at maybe getting some more measurable rain here coming up in those 3 days. And then if you look at the temperatures as we dry out towards the weekend, the temperatures will mainly stay above the average, which is about 87 degrees for this time of year. Thursday may be the one cool day where we don't get above average, but for generally the next the end of August really will stay above the average here, which will carry into September. So we're going to finish up what would be the end of summer meteorologically. So we measure the end, we measure the season of summer all the way until August 31st. And so we're looking at a hot end, and we'll probably finish in Denver in the top 5, if not the top 4 hottest summers of all time in Denver. So thanks for tuning in to give you this forecast. Hopefully that helps you out with your planning going for the next couple of days, and enjoy that super blue moon if you can tomorrow morning. Thanks. Have a great one.